Was that outside your window? Or in the tree line of the forest? Strange things lurk out there in the dark. Make sure you get home, because the Skinwalker can get you. Now listen to 3 true Skinwalker stories. Enjoy the video. Number 1. Skinwalker in the forest. It was the beginning of summer. I was 15 when this event occurred, and it's not really important where I live, but what is important is that we had an old log fire in our house. Even though we were the only people in our village to have one, my dad was old-fashioned and he always said it was more cost-effective. My dad was a 6'4" bodybuilder, and he would do the same every year. He would chop down trees for wood and store it in a shed throughout the summer, ready for use in the winter. He made this a part of his workout, and he asked me if I wanted to go with him. I said yes. That year I had a new PSP, and it was an opportunity to get some gaming done. We had to walk into the forest, as chopping down trees was against the law in my town. My dad was pushing a wheelbarrow and carrying an axe, and after around 20 minutes my dad decides on a good spot. He starts swinging his axe at the tree, whilst I'm sitting there playing on my video games. A couple of hours go by, and my dad is still collecting wood when my battery dies. Well, I'm officially bored now, and I asked my dad if I could go back to the house. He says it's okay as long as I go straight home and don't hang around. So I start to walk. After around 10 minutes, everything suddenly goes dark and cold. There was no sounds or birds. I couldn't even hear crickets or even hear the wind blowing. I looked around, and as I started to get the feeling of dread, all of a sudden I hear my dad shouting my name.
Ryan, come here.
It sounded like my dad, but at the same time it didn't. I couldn't see where he was, and I continued to look in the direction the voice was coming from. The voice shouted again.
Ryan, come here.
And that was when I saw it. Half a humanoid figure standing behind a tree. It was clear that this was no man or woman. It was approximately 7 feet tall, and there was no distinctive features. I froze, and I thought that was going to be it for me. I lost all semblance of direction, all understanding of time. But then, suddenly, fight or flight kicked in, and I just ran in the opposite direction. I kept running, my feet raking. I was sweating, I was hitting the branches on the way past. I don't know how long I was running for, but I was certain that if this thing was chasing me, it would have caught me by now. I finally reached my home. I was sweaty and dirty, and when I got in the house I slammed the door and locked it. My mother came rushing out as I broke into tears. "What happened?" she asked. "What's wrong? Where's your father?" I managed to gather myself together when my dad walked through the door. I told my dad what I saw, and he looked blanked. He said it was my imagination and sent me up to my room to sleep. I cried myself to sleep for the next couple of days, and I kept myself to myself, trying to make sense over what happened that day. The memory started to fade away, but I was absolutely convinced it was real. Eventually, things turned back to normal. Fast forward 3 months, and I wake up to the sound of builders in the house. They were replacing the old log fire with a brand new state-of-the-art gas fire. It's then it hit me. My dad had not gone back to the forest since that day, nor had I seen his axe or wheelbarrow. I knew something was up, so I decided to ask him what happened. He said that after I had left him, he decided to catch up with me so we could walk home together. However, after a couple of minutes, he saw me running in the distance. He looked to his right, only to see the very same creature that had chased me leaning over, clutching onto the PSP that dropped only seconds earlier. The creature raised his head and made eye contact with him. They were staring at each other, but he doesn't know how long for. Suddenly the creature stood up and towered over my dad and ran deep into the forest. My dad made it home, but he could not bring himself to accept what he saw. It was the first and the last time I saw my father cry. Needless to say, We moved far away that year. I definitely do not go into the forest anymore. Number 2. Skinwalker screams. I went camping with my friends Jason and Holly. We went outside one of the local camping grounds, as it was a more personal experience. Plus, you didn't have to pay any camping fees. We set up camp around 6 p.m. and it was about to get dark. We had quite a lot of drinks that day, and we told each other scary stories all night. It was time to tuck in. By now it was about 1 in the morning, and we were all feeling really drunk. We must have laid down for only a matter of minutes when we heard rustling outside our tent. Now I'm from the UK and we don't really get big enough animals who can make this much noise. We are instantly on edge. All three of us sit up and try to listen, but it's moving too fast. Sometimes the sound is coming from the left, sometimes to the right. Holly decides she's going to pop her head outside of the tent, see what's going on. She couldn't see anything. It was surprisingly quiet considering what just happened. We all stand outside the tent, all seem a little confused. "It must be a fox," I said. And at that moment, we heard the most crippling series of screams. Jason instantly freaks out. He demands we get out today. We just get up and leave. We leave everything where it was, and we head towards the nearest camping ground. As soon as I can get a signal on my mobile phone, I call for someone to pick us up. We have told many people about this story who are just convinced it was an animal call, but it wasn't there. God knows what kind of creature makes a call like that. Number 3. Skinwalker outside my house. Now my distant family is of Navajo descent. This story was told to me by my cousin, so I apologise if I'm missing some detail. When my cousin was growing up, he used to suffer from really bad night terrors. He used to have the same repetitive dream every single night. There always seemed to be a pattern with him. He used to wake up, walk over to the window, and there was a figure with long protruding fingers making a "come here" motion with his hands. Usually it would just disappear and he would fall back to sleep. But this night was different. He approaches the window as normal, and the figure is there as he expected. But this time, the figure starts walking towards the back door. Then he realizes he isn't sleeping. He hears a knock on the back door and he starts panicking. He decides this can't be real, can it? He makes his way slowly downstairs and looks at the back door. There is glass at the top, and all he can see is a silhouette, just standing there. Something urged him, he told me. Something called to him to open the door. So he walked towards it slowly, with every intention of letting what was out there in. It was then did his mother grab him from behind and urged him to keep away from that thing. She waited, and then she opened the door and nothing was there. Eventually they got some of my distant family members over. They recommended they get a Navajo witch doctor to cleanse the house, which they did. But they did confirm that it was definitely a skinwalker. Hey guys, Peacemaker here. Really hope you enjoyed the video. It will be the first of many. And just remember guys, be careful of those things that could bump in the night. Thank you for watching.